Scope of supply. The taxable event in GST is supply of goods and services. In GST law scenario has been shifted from sales, services, manufacturing to one activity, supply. The Constitution defines goods and services tax as any tax on supply of goods or services or both. Parameters to understand meaning and scope of supply. Supply of goods and services. Supply for a consideration. Supply for in-course or furtherance of business. Supply should be a taxable supply. Few exception to requirement of supply for a consideration and in course or furtherance of business. Import of services for a consideration, whether or not in the course or furtherance of business, is treated as supply. Securities are excluded from the definition of goods as well as that of services. Money is also excluded from the definition of goods as well as services. Classification of goods or services. The distinction between goods and services was unavoidable in dual GST law. So, Schedule 2 defines activity or transaction to be treated as a supply of goods or services. Schedule 2 of the CGST Act 2017. Activities which are to be treated as supply of goods or services. Any transfer of title in goods. Supply of goods. Any transfer of right in goods. Supply of services. Transfer of intellectual property rights. Supply of services. Schedule 2 of the CGST Act 2017. Activities which are to be treated as supply of goods or services. Treatment or process. Supply of services. Renting of immovable property. Supply of services. Composite supply, work contract. Supply of services. Schedule 3 of the CGST Act 2017. Activities which are to be treated as neither supply of goods or services. Service by employee to employer in the course of or in relation to his employment. Service of funeral, burial, crematorium or mortuary including transportation of the deceased. Sale of land and sale of building where the entire consideration has been received after completion certificate is issued or after its first occupation. Actionable claims are included in the definition of goods. However, Schedule 3 provides that actionable claims other than lottery, betting and gambling shall be neither goods nor services. Supply of goods from a place in the non-taxable territory to another place in the non-taxable territory without such goods entering India. Service rendered by court or tribunal. Function performed by the Member of Parliament, State Legislature, Panchayats, municipalities and local authority. Supply of warehoused goods to any person before clearance for home consumption. Supply of goods by the consignee to any other person by endorsement after goods has been dispatched from port of origin outside India but before clearance for home consumption. Supply for consideration. Consideration can be money or in kind. When there is barter of goods or services, the same activity constitutes supply as well as consideration. It is immaterial whether the payment is made by the recipient or by any other person. Exception to rule consideration. Permanent transfer or disposal of business assets where input tax credit has been availed on such assets. Supply of goods or services or both between related persons or between distinct persons as specified in Section 25 when made in the course or furtherance of business. Supply of goods. A. By a principal to his agent where the agent undertakes to supply such goods on behalf of the principal, or B. By an agent to his principal where the agent undertakes to receive such goods on behalf of the principal. Import of services by a taxable person from a related person or from any of his other establishments outside India in the course or furtherance of business. Supply in the course or furtherance of business. GST is essentially a tax only on commercial transactions. Hence, only those supplies that are in the course or furtherance of business qualify as supply under GST. However, there is one exception to this course or furtherance of business rule, i.e., import of services for consideration. Supply by a taxable person. A taxable person is a person who is registered or liable to be registered under Section 22 or Section 24 of the GST Act. Hence, even an unregistered person who is liable to be registered is a taxable person. Similarly, a person not liable to be registered but has taken voluntary registration and got himself registered is also a taxable person. Taxable supply. For a supply to attract GST, the supply must be taxable. Taxable supply has been broadly defined and means any supply of goods or services or both which is leviable to tax under the Act. Supply in the taxable territory. For a supply to attract GST, the place of supply should be in India except the state of Jammu and Kashmir. The place of supply of any goods or services is determined based on Sections 10, 11, 12 and 13 of IGST Act 2017.